Hello everyone and welcome to the channel. Today we will be going over the Dragonknight tank for update 31, the Waking Flame DLC. When it comes to playing a Dragonknight tank, they are arguably the best class to play. This is mostly due to them being able to sustain fairly easy. With a lot of our crowd control abilities being magicka based, they are able to give the group a damage shield, which in turn gives us some stand back for casting it. Even a self-heal that heals us for a percent of our missing health. All of this makes it easier for players to survive, sustain, and complete content as a Dragonknight tank. So for this particular Dragonknight build, we will be focusing on improving the amount of buffs we apply to the group. To do this, we will be using some uncommon skills that most Dragonknight tank builds don't use, along with some sets designed to improve ulti gen, fire damage and resistance, and last, overall damage output. Now, if you would like to learn more about this ulti bashing, stagger casting, fire drake, I will be going over the stats on the build, what skills I like to use, what kind of passives are used on the build, what kind of gear makes this build tick, and last, what is the CP setup for my level. All of this is coming up next. So let's dive into the build. We're going to start off in our character sheet. Our max magicka is sitting at 20,100. Max health is at 44,700 with max stam at 26,200. Our recoveries can go up a little bit more by applying a potion and by applying our green dragon blood on the back bar, with our magicka recovery sitting at 1,300, health recovery at 4,700 or at 479, and stamina recovery at 689 on our front bar, with the back bar sitting all fairly the same. For resistance, our resistance can go up by applying our ability here. On our back bar, we have spell resistance sitting at 27,000, physical resistance at 26,200. On the front bar, our spell resistance is sitting at 28,700 with physical resistance at 28,000. Now for attributes on the build, we have 64 points into health. The reason for this is because as a tank, a lot of health makes it a lot easier to survive. On top of it, we do have some skills on our bar that actually are based off of max health, so the higher our health, the stronger the ability is. If you feel like you have way too much with 44,000 sitting there, we can put some points into magicka to increase our magicka amount, or even stam if you feel like 26,000 is a little too low, and with the 20,000 a little low on max magicka. For the Mundus Stone or the boon that we are running on the build, we are running the Lord, which increases our max health by 2,200. Again, this is just mostly to increase the skills, increase the amount of the power of the skill for the max health based. Again, if you really want to, if you feel like you have a lot of health, you can use other boons or Mundus Stones. You could use like ones for increase your magicka recovery if you believe 1,300 magicka recovery is a little low. Without a potion running, we are sitting only at 1,000. So if that is low to you, you can use that to increase magicka recovery, or max magicka boon. You can use a max stam boon, more resistance if you want a little bit more resistance. Choices are there for you. Now going over into skills. Now before we dive into skills, I just want to let everyone know that the skills, how they're set up, does not mean this is the order that you have to do them in. You can switch them around. You could put Stone Giant as a B button, you could put it as right bumper, left bumper, Y, kind of put it wherever you want to on this bar, wherever it's comfortable for you. I will say though that there may be a reason why they are on this bar compared to, let's say, on the back bar. So just keep that in mind when you're kind of looking at the build, and when we go over passives, why they may be on that bar. So starting with the first skill we have, this is actually a flex spot. What I like to use for the most point is down into the Earthen Heart skill line, with the first ability to unlock starts off as Stone Fist. We then morph it to Stone Giant. This will deal 5,200 physical damage to all enemies within 6 meters of us when we cast it. And we will end up ripping up the ground, and we hold these orbs around us for 12 seconds. Now, by activating the ability again, it allows us to launch some of that debris at an enemy, dealing the 5,200 damage, almost 5,300. And up to 3 times. When we hit a target 3 times with it, we will actually end up stunning them, so they'll kind of be able not to move for 3 seconds after hitting them. But the main reason we actually want to run this is because this applies stagger, the only part in the game that actually has this benefit. And what stagger does, it increases the damage that that enemy takes by 65 points per stack for 6 seconds. And since we can only stack it up to a maximum of 3 times, the total amount that damage that an enemy could take is, I believe it's like 190, almost close to 200. Don't quote me on it, but just trying to do some quick math there. So that's just DPS increase that for your group that you can kind of give. If you know that that's like, you know, I'd mostly use this if it was a magicka and stand based DPS group. If it's mostly, let's say, a magicka DPS group, then I would probably switch my skill over into the Adriant Flame skill line, with the third ability to unlock. Starts off as Fiery Breath. We then morph it to Engulfing Flames. This will be 10 meters in front of us in a cone shape. So what that means is kind of going out in like a pie, or like it says, a cone, triangle shape from you out 10 meters distance will end up being where this flame blast will be. That will deal 3,600 flame damage, and then an additional 6,600 flame damage over 14 seconds. Now, the effective enemies who take the damage from this will take an additional flame damage attacks based off of our offensive stats, with a maximum of 10% bonus that we can give, which for us is 5%. So those enemies will take an additional 5% more damage from all flame damage based attacks, is what that means. Now, if you kind of, this is what I would run for like a magicka based DPS group, just because the fact is most of your magicka based DPS are running some sort of like flame damage ability. I know a lot of people like to run Maw of the Infernal or even Zond, which does a lot of flame damage, so definitely will help out their DPS there for magicka based DPS group. Now, if you don't really have magicka based DPS group and it's really hard for you to, let's say, keep Stone Giant up and you just kind of struggle with it, another really good one that I would recommend is down into the One-Handed and Shield skill line. It'd be the third ability to unlock. Starts off as Defensive Posture. We then morph it to Defensive Stance. This gives us a stand-based damage shield that gives us 13,800 damage shield for 6 seconds. And this one is based off of our max health, so the higher health, the stronger it'll be. And what this does is this will reflect a harmful direct damage projectile cast at us. It can occur once per cast, so what that means is we'll basically bounce off like when mages cast their magic bolts at us, or when archers shoot an arrow at us. This will just bounce the attack back, which is kind of nice. But the main reason we want to actually use this is not actually really to cast it. What it is to, while having a shield equipped, which we do on this bar, the amount of damage we can block is increased by 10%, and the cost of blocking is reduced by 10%. So it just allows us to block longer and reduce the amount of damage we take while blocking, which really, really helps us a lot. And it's a really nice thing to do. So going over to our next ability is in the One-Handed Shield skill line. It is the second ability to unlock. Starts off as Low Slash. We then morph it to Heroic Slash. We will deal 3,200 physical damage to an enemy, which then we will inflict them with Minor Main, which reduces their damage done by 5% for 12 seconds. The nice part about this is by reducing their damage done by 5% is this makes us a lot tankier, because they don't deal as much damage to us, but it's mostly a good thing to use for, let's say, your healers and your DPS out there. Because For the healer, they don't take as much damage, but on top of it, they don't have to work as hard. They don't have to, you know, try to keep everybody up, because not everybody's taking as much damage anymore, especially for that one target that we hit. This only applies on one target, just so you're aware. But so our healers don't have to work so hard to keep everyone up because of that. On top of it, DPS now don't have to struggle to keep themselves alive because they're not taking as much damage, so they're becoming a little bit tankier. Everybody kind of becomes tankier all around. But the main reason we like to use this is because we gain minor heroism, which grants us one ultimate every second and a half for 12 seconds. So nice way to build ulti. We'll go over why ulti is kind of important in the passives later. Now over into our next ability we have is up into the Ardent Flame, or Ardent Flame, sorry about for the mispronouncing, Ardent Flame. It is the fourth ability to unlock, starts off as Fiery Grip. We then morph it to Unrelenting Grip. This will end up pulling an enemy to us up to 22 meters away from us and deals 2,800 flame damage, which is a little nice, but by hitting the target, we also get Major Expedition, increasing our movement speed by 30% for 4 seconds. So it's kind of a nice little way to kind of give us a little speed boost if we kind of need it. Nice part about this type of pull compared to our Silver Leash in the Fighters Guild is if a target cannot be pulled by this ability, we restore 100% of the ability's cost as magicka, so it costs us nothing if we mistakenly pull somebody that can't be pulled. So this is a really nice one. Next ability we have is in the Draconic Power. It is the second ability to unlock, starts off as Dark Talons. We then morph it to Choking Talons. This is 6 meters around us that we will have talons pop out of the ground that can deal 3,600 flame damage to the enemies around us. And the nice part is it is an immobilizer, so it holds them in place so they can't move for 4 seconds. Now, for everything within the 6 meters, enemies within that 6 meters are afflicted with Minor Main, so this is another way to apply Minor Main, which reduces their damage done by 5% for 10 seconds, so this is kind of like add pulls and all that. Works really nice on. You can apply this on boss fights too, but our Heroic Slash works a little bit better for that. Nice part about this too is an ally can activate a Synergy Ignite, which will deal 6,600 flame damage to all enemies held within the talons. I think you can only talon up to 6 targets if I remember right, so just keep that in mind as well. Next ability we have is down into the One-Handed Shield skill line. It is the first ability to unlock, starts off as Puncher. We then morph it to Pierce Armor. We pierce an enemy dealing 2,700 physical damage, but this is our taunt. We will tell that enemy to attack us for 15 seconds, and this is our main taunt, and we want to make sure to apply this to the bosses and keep this style taunt up. The reason for that is because we inflict Minor Breach and Major Breach, which reduces the enemy's physical and spell resistance. Minor Breach will be the 2,900, and Major is the 5,900 for 15 seconds. In total, that's roughly about, if we round them up from 2,000 to 3,000 and then from 5,000 to 6,000, it's roughly 9,000 resistance we lower the targets. Now, for those that don't know, every enemy in a vet dungeon has a total of 18,200 physical and spell resistance. The lower you get that resistance, the stronger your DPS are gonna hit. So by lowering 9,000 from that 18,200, we about cut the enemy's resistance in half, so this helps a lot. So make sure to keep this taunt up. Do not lose taunt, otherwise your DPS and healer could get targeted by the boss and get one shot and killed. So make sure to keep up taunt and try to keep this taunt up at all times as well. Now for the ulti on this bar, there are a couple different ultis we can use, but on this one I particularly like to use the one in the One-Handed Shield skill line. It starts off as Shield Wall. I morphed it to Spell Wall. You can morph it to Shield Initiate, I believe is what it's called for the other one. I know a lot of people like that one because it reduces it, or it allows you for 7 seconds to cast any one-handed shield ability for free, which is kind of nice. But the main reason I like to use Spell Wall is because this allows us to automatically block all attacks at no cost and reflect all projectiles. So the other morph allows us only to block melee damage. This one actually allows us to block everything. So for 7 seconds we're actually immune. And I typically like to use this, kind of keep this on my bar as, oh snap, my teammates died because they got hit with a mechanic that we were unaware of and stuff like that, and I need to get them up because I'm one of those, I don't like to wipe, I like to fight. So we use this, allies on the ground, find my moment in time, pop this guy, can get a res up within the 7 seconds, and bam, or start chain resing and get everybody back in the fight and keep going. That's why I like to use this one. Other morph or other ultimates we can use is we also have Magma Shell. This is a really good one. This one is found, let's go show you, in the Earth and Heart skill line. It starts off as Magma Armor, we then morph it to Magma Shell. This will limit the incoming damage to us to 3% of our max health and deal 822 flame damage to nearby enemies for each second. But the nice part about this is when activated, nearby allies gain a damage shield for 100% of their max health for 12 seconds. So kind of keeps everybody up and gives everybody a big damage shield, kind of like barrier. But just the Dragonknight's way of doing it. Now over into our back bar. First ability we have is in the Earth and Heart skill line. It is the third ability to unlock, starts off as Obsidian Shield. We then morph it to Igneous Shield. This grants us a damage shield that will shield nearby allies for 3,800 damage, and our own damage shield will absorb 9,500 damage, and this is also scaled off of our max health, so the higher our health, the more damage we can block. This also gives us Major Mending, increasing our healing done by 16% for 3 seconds, which is a really nice thing because we'll kind of tell you how to kind of use it to help yourself out. Next ability we have is down into the Destruction Staff skill line. It is the second ability to unlock. Starts off as Wall of Elements, we then morph it to Elemental Blockade. And since we are using a Frost Staff, we'll go up into what the Frost Staff said, because it'll end up being Blockade of Frost, which is an 18 by 12 meter area. So it's 12 meters wide by 18 meters deep, is kind of like a rectangle shape that it will be for 11 seconds, which will deal 600 frost damage to enemies in that area every second. And upon using it, we apply Frost Safeguard for 6 seconds to us and nearby allies that absorb up to 11,900 damage from projectiles. So this is from archers and mages is what we get protected from with this. Now, enemies that become chilled are then immobilized for 4 seconds, so this is kind of another way to immobilize, but our talons are a better way to make sure that the enemies do get immobilized. This is by chance that they proc the chill status effect. Next ability we have is up into the Draconic Power skill line. It is the third ability to unlock, starts off as Dragon Blood. We then morph it to Green Dragon Blood. This allows us to draw our Dragon or Draconic Blood to heal for 33% of our missing health. So the more health we're missing, the better the heal will be. We also gain Major Fortitude and Major Endurance and Minor Vitality, increasing our health recovery, stamina recovery by 30%, and healing received by 8% for 23 seconds. So what I was talking about earlier is we want to try to make sure to cast our Igneous Shields before we cast our Green Dragon Blood, because by casting Igneous Shields, we get Major Mending, and then that will in fact increase our missing health heal. So let's see if we can get it to go. See, it goes from 33% to 38%, which is really, really nice. So that's why we kind of want to make sure to cast our Igneous Shields before we have to do a self-heal, because we'll get more out of it. Now, over into the next skill we have is down into, still again in the Draconic Power. It is the first ability to unlock, starts off as Spiked Armor. We then morph to Hardened Armor. You could do the other morph if you really want to. I just like this one because this will give us Major Resolve, increasing our physical and spell resistance by 5,900 for 20 seconds. This allows us to hit that 28,000 on our Sword and Board in the spell and physical. But on top of casting this, we also gain a damage shield that absorbs 6,900 damage for 6 seconds, and this is also scaled off of our max health. So we have a lot of potential for just pretty much shield stacking, making us very, very survivable on this build. The nice part about this too is while active, the armor returns 775 magic damage to any enemies that use direct damage attacks against us in melee range. So our melee fighters will get some damage cast back at them while they hit us, which is nice. Now, next ability we have is all the way down into our Undaunted skill line. It is the third ability to unlock. Starts off as Inner Fire. We then morph it to Inner Beast. This is a ranged taunt up to 28 meters away. We can taunt things. This will deal 2,500 physical damage and tell enemies to attack us for 15 seconds. Since we did the Inner Beast morph and not the Inner Rage, enemies will take 10% more damage from our attacks, which is okay. The reason we do this is because I like quite a good balance of stam and magicka costing abilities. Yes, a lot of magicka cost on that bar and some magicka costing abilities, but with some well-needed stam as well. Just so you guys know. On top of it, too, an ranged ally, so somebody at a distance that is targeting that enemy that we used Inner Beast on, has a 50% chance to allow them to activate the Radiant Synergy, dealing 4,800 magicka damage to that target over 3 seconds, and then an additional 4,800 magicka damage to them and other nearby enemies. So kind of help with the damage output on the build. Now for the ultimate on this build, we are down into the Assault skill line. We use Warhorn and then we morph it to Aggressive Warhorn because this will increase us and our allies max magicka and max stam by 10% for 30 seconds, which is really nice because that actually helps out DPS output and allows the healer to actually have more magicka to heal with. I know there are some stam healers out there as well, so it also allows them to heal for longer as well. But we really like to use this is because this also gives us and our allies Major Force, which increases their critical damage done by 20% for 10 seconds. And that's the first 10 seconds of the ability cost, just so that everyone's aware, which is really, really nice because that much damage output, a lot of people are built for crits, so you're gonna burn through bosses a little bit faster with this. And that's why I like to run this. Now, we'll be going over the passives on the build. Let's go all the way to the top. And for the passives, I will only be going over just the key passives that will help you the most on the build. I still highly recommend that you go through all of these and read how they help, since I won't be going through all of them myself. So we'll start in the Adriant Flame skill line with Combustion. Combustion gives us nice damage bonus to our burn and poison status effects by 50%. On top of it, a really nice thing is when we apply a burn status effect, we can restore 500 magicka to us, so it helps us withstand. And if we do a poison status effect, then we restore 500 stam. So a nice kind of sustained thing. We don't really have any poison, so we're not going to really get stam back. Next one is Warmth, which whenever we deal direct damage with an Adriant Flame skill ability, we reduce the enemy's movement speed by 30% for 3 seconds. Kind of helps us keep our ads stacked up and keep things from not moving away from us so fast. Over into Draconic Power, we're going to start with Iron Skin, which increases the amount of damage we can block by 10%. So this allows us to take more damage without being in immediate danger of like, oh, danger, we're almost dead because of it. Again, if you end up doing some, switching some skills up on the front bar, things change around. For that too, we can actually block more. Next, I'd probably say is Scaled Armor. This increases gives us 1,600 physical and spell resistance, which allows us to get closer to the 33,000 cap resistance. When we hit cap, we just end up blocking, mitigating a lot more damage, so it's kind of nice to get a little bit closer. In the Earthen Heart skill line, we're going to start with Battle Roar, is whenever which gives us 46 health, magic, and stam for each point of ultimate cost, which is really nice to help us sustain our resources. Then I would say Mountain Blessing. This gives us and group members minor brutality for 20 seconds, which for those that don't know is increase weapon damage by 10% is what minor brutality is, which is really, really nice. So skills that I can apply that is our Igneous Shields. Even our Stone Giant can apply that. If we end up using Magma Shell as an ultimate, that can apply it as well. Also on top of it, a bonus to it is while in combat, we gain 3 ultimate every 6 seconds when we actually cast an ability. So if we cast our Igneous Shields every 6 seconds, we're going to get 3 ultimate. If we cast Stone Giant every 6 seconds, we're going to get ulti there. And it's not like you have to cast it, wait 6 seconds, and then cast it. If we want to, we can cast this within, a couple times within 6 seconds. It's just once every 6 seconds is what it means. And then last here, I'd say Helping Hand, which gives us almost 1,000 stam back when we use a magicka-based ability within the skill line. So that's going to be our Igneous Shields. Whenever we pop Igneous Shields, we're going to get about 1,000 stam back for every time we cast it. So kind of balance out our magic and stam if we got a lot of magicka. Then we're going to go over to weapons with our one-handed and shield skill line. We have Fortress, which will reduce the stam cost of our one-handed shield abilities by 15%. Is nice, but we mostly like it to reduce the cost of our blocking by 36% so we can block for a longer duration. Then I would say Sword and Board for more damage block. Yes, we get a 5% increase to our weapon and spell damage, but just the amount of damage we can block by 20% is really, really nice. And then last here, I'd probably say Deflected Bolts. This part just increases the amount of damage we can block from projectiles and ranged attacks by 14%. So from our pesky mages and our pesky archers. And this does stack with our previous one that we talked about with the Sword and Board skill line. Then over into the Destruction Staff skill line, I would probably say Elemental Focus. This just gives us a better chance to apply its status effect with Chilled, and if we are hitting an enemy with an Ice Staff equipped, we can also proc Minor Brittle, which increases the enemy's critical damage taken by 10%, so that's a nice thing too. I would say optional spot, you don't have to. I currently do on this build, but I have Trifocus. And what Trifocus does with an Ice Staff is whenever we fully charge a Ice Staff, it gives us a damage shield that absorbs 11,100 damage. So yes, like I said, we can stack a lot of damage shields on this build if we really wanted to. And this is for 6 seconds as well, but just to let everyone know is when you have an Ice Staff equipped and you block and you take damage, instead of draining your stam, it will drain your magicka instead, and you cannot recover magicka while blocking. So just keep that in mind if you have Trifocus on as a passive. Going over into armor, we're going to start with light. What light armor gives us is this will give us some more magicka recovery. We can reduce the cost of our magicka abilities. There's also spell and weapon critical in here. There's spell and physical penetration, along with other bonuses and penalty within the light armor. Here's our penalties that we have, and here are some bonuses that we have as well. Over into the medium armor. What medium armor gives us is a little bit more stam recovery. We can reduce the cost to stam abilities. There's critical damage and healing done within the build, within the skill lines for passives. Yeah, and just kind of some other bonuses. Medium armor doesn't have a penalty, so some bonuses that we get are listed here as well. Now for heavy armor, This will give us more resistance. There is things for like health recovery in here. We got resources restored when we take damage as well. There's also max health. And also along with other types of bonuses and penalties that we have to, here's some heavy armor penalties listed, and then here are some heavy armor bonuses that we have. Now for soul magic, I do have soul summoning. This just allows us to revive once every hour without spending a soul gem. Just kind of a little nice thing to have. Fighter's Guild, for every Fighter's Guild ability we have slotted, since we really don't have any. We just like Intimidating Presence just for questing when you're building your characters. It's really nice to get through stuff a little bit easier instead of having to reroute. I'd say Banish the Wicked, but again, like I said, since we don't have any Fighter's Guild ability slotted, we used to. Since we don't get anything from there. Mage's Guild, the same thing with Persuasive Will. This just kind of allows us when we're building our character for questing purposes just to get through stuff a little bit easier. Over into the Undaunted, we have Undaunted Command, which when activating a synergy restores 4% of our max health, stam, and magicka. For us, we'll get 1,700 health, 1,000 stam, and 804 magicka. Really nice. Make sure to take your synergies. Then we have Undaunted Metal, which increases our max health, stam, and magicka by 2% per type of armor worn. Since we are at least wearing one heavy, one medium, and one light, we get a 6% bonus. Now if we were wearing all heavy, we would only get 2%. And if you're, let's say, wearing a heavy and one medium piece, then you get 4%, or one light and 6 heavy, then you'll get your 4 there as well. So just keep that in mind. Assault, we just got continuous attack. This is just to make our mount speed a little bit faster, just to get from zone to zone. Kind of helps with questing as you're building the character. Oops, sorry about that. For the race, we are running a Nord on the build. You don't have to run a Nord. You could run, let's say, an Imperial if you want to. You could run an Argonian, or you can run any other race that you really desire. I just like the Nord because I felt like the Nord kind of fit well with the Dragonknight type thing. But like I said, you can run any other race because I like some of the passives that the Nord gives. Because some of the passives that the Nord gives is we got Resistance to Frost, which increases our max health by 1,000. So nice to have health. It's a major bonus and allows our bunch of our skills to benefit from it. And our frost resistance by 4,600, which is a nice little niche thing to have. Stalwart, this increases our max stam by 1,500, which we use quite a bit of stam for blocking, so it's kind of nice to have a little bit of it. But on top of it, when we take damage, we gain 5 ultimate, and this can happen once every 10 seconds, so it's really nice to build ultimate. And like I said earlier in the passives, for every point of ultimate we use, so when we can cast ultimate, we get 46 points of health, stam, and magicka, and that's why it's really nice to build ulti on this build, is because that will keep up our resources and help us sustain a lot easier. Last, we have Rugged, which increases our physical and spell resistance by 2,600, just to hit that nice 28,000 resistance, because most people say you only need about 27,000 resistance. While we're at that point, so good for us to hit that. Now, the most important passive in the game is found in Alchemy, called Medicinal Use. Potions result 30% longer, the effects on it. So most of the time this will give you major stuff. So for us, it gives us major intellect, major endurance, major, health, magic, and stam. If you don't have this, your potion effects only lasts 39 seconds at base, with your cooldown on your potions at 45 seconds, so you got 9 seconds of downtime without those buffs. With this on, it's for 47 seconds, so it's up for 100% of the time. So make sure to get Medicinal Use. It's very important to get that. Next thing I really want to talk about too is then provisioning. I use Gourmet. This gives me 20 minutes to the duration of any eaten food, so that way I don't have to consume as much food. Since I run Tri-Stat Foods, that way we can kind of save money and resources on top of it because we don't have to pop those in. Now, if you decide you want to run a drink on the build for some reason, then I would say run Connoisseur. This will add 20 minutes to the duration of your consumed drink, since you are running a drink and not a food. So if you're running drink, run Connoisseur. If you're running food, use Gourmet. Okay, now going over into the gear slash Slottables that we are running. So for Slottables on the build, I am currently using the Crown Fortified Meals. We get this in daily logins, but it would be tri-stat food basically is what it is. So this increases our max health by 4,400, max magicka by 4,100, and also withstand for 2.5 hours. That's where kind of our Gourmet comes into play. If you really want more optimal stuff, you could use the Bewitched Sugar Skulls, because this will give you a little bit more health by, you know, our health will be a 4,600 more, or not more, but it'll be 200 points more. Our max stamina magicka will be then at 4,200, and we get a nice little bonus to our health recovery up for 462 for 2.5 hours. For potions on the build, we are running the Crown Tri-Restoration Potions. Again, we get these from daily logins, but it'd be pretty much tri-pots is what this is. This will restore 8,300 health, 7,500 magicka and stam to us, and this gives us a major fortitude, major intellect, and major endurance, which increases our health, magicka, and stam recovery by 30%. That's where medicinal use comes into play. 47 seconds with 45 cooldown, so 2 seconds of uptime on it. So that's why medicinal use is very important, that we talked over in passives. Now, for our front bar with our sword and board, I am running Yolokrin's Axe. Currently, I have absorbed stam enchantment on this just to make sure my stam resources stay up while I'm attacking, with the decisive trait to give us a 25% chance to gain 1 additional ultimate for all the times we have those ultimates. Again, in our skills, we had Heroic Slash, which gives us ultimate. Being a Nord gives us ultimate. We got many things on the build that can give us ultimate, so it's nice to run decisive to just get a nice little tick at something. For Claw of Yolokrin set, for wearing 2 pieces of this gives us 1,100 max health. We also gain Minor Aegis at all time, reducing our damage taken from dungeon trials and arena monsters by 5%, making us a lot tankier, which is really good. It also gives us 1,000 max stam, can block a lot more with that. And the 5-piece bonus is when we taunt an enemy, we give ourselves and 11 group members Minor Courage for 15 seconds, which increases their weapon and spell damage by 215, and this can occur once every 8 seconds. So you don't have to pop it every, after 8 seconds pop it. You can wait for, 2 seconds left on your taunt, or, wherever your comfortable spot reapplying a taunt. Just make sure it's at least 8 seconds before you reapply it, so that way we can benefit the most from this set. Now, I do understand that some people maybe do not have the Claw of Yolokrin, because this is a trial set found in Sunspire. I'll go here, show you. Boom, Claw of Yolokrin, and that's where you get it. So those that haven't got into a trial and want to get into a trial and don't know what gear to swap that out for, my suggestion for it, you don't have to take my word at it, but what I would recommend running would be then in the Vault of Madness, I would run the Worm Remnant set, because it's a light armor set, so it works great to be on your weapons and jewelry, and that's kind of where we have our Yolokrin set up. And what the Worm Remnant does is this adds 121 spell damage, which if we use Engulfing Flames skill or magicka based DPS, that will actually increase up to then 6% instead of 5% damage increase, which is really nice. We also get max magicka, which is kind of nice for casting a lot of our magicka based abilities. We got quite a bit of them. It also gives us more magicka recovery, which is nice for sustaining those abilities. And on top of it, it gives an additional 136 magicka recovery to you and up to 11 other group members within 28 meters of you. This would actually be a little bit more. This is just at blue quality. I think it's actually a little bit more. I might be wrong. I think it used to be like 149 or 146. It might be only 136, so I apologize if it is only 136. But it's a nice way to keep up our recoveries on top of group members' recovery, and especially for magicka DPS base focus setup. I mean, if you really want to, if you're stand based and you know you're stand based, then sorry about that. We can then go into Celine's. I think it's Hercine's Veneer. Yes, it's Hercine's Veneer, and this will give us stam recovery, which don't really help if we're blocking on our sword and board because we don't get anything from it. Max stam, more stam recovery, and then this gives us the 136 stam recovery to us and 11 group members within 28 meters of us. So it's mostly to help the DPS stam recovery. For you, it won't really help a whole lot if you're blocking, so just keeping that in mind if you want to run that instead for stam based DPS instead of running the Worm's Remnant set. Okay, let's get back into it. So on the shield, we are running the max stam enchantment with the sturdy trait, just allow us to reduce the cost of blocking so we can block longer. And then on the back bar, we are running an ice staff with the crusher enchantment, because when we run our wall of elements, our crusher can proc, and it always procs from the closest to the furthest. So the closest enemy to where you cast it will most likely proc the crusher enchantment, which we will reduce their physical and spell resistance by 1,400. So our DPS can hit a lot harder, because of if we also pierce armor them, we lower their resistance by a lot. Yes, I know I do have the charge trait on this. Infuse may be better, so by having charge, it just increases the chance to apply the chill status effect to immobilize them, and if we're attacking, we could then apply minor brittle as well. Now going over into our monster helm, we are running Akatosh Behemoth. This is medium armor on our head for max stam enchantment. We want infused trait on this, just increase our enchantment because I want a little bit more stam, and that's the setup I do. So for the Akatosh Behemoth set, this gives us some max magicka, nice for those magic abilities. Two piece is whenever dealing flame damage to an enemy, grants us Behemoth's Aura for 12 seconds and it reaches up to 12 meters. Us and up to 11 group members in the aura reduces the flame damage taken by 5%. There are a lot of dungeons in the game that do have flame damage being applied, so this is kind of nice to reduce the damage that we take from that, on top of like trials like Sunspire or things like that. That also helps as well. But the nice part about this is enemies in the aura increase their flame damage taken by 5%, so this will help out our magicka DPS group as well. So it's a really nice thing why we run it. Again, like I said, if you're more stand based, then you probably want to use, let's say, Tremor Scale helmet, because that will reduce targets' physical resistance if you're running a stam DPS group. And this on this helmet can occur once every 15 seconds. And I know some of you are asking, but you don't have flame based abilities. We kind of do. We actually have our Unrelenting Grip. That is a magicka based skill. There you could see the aura, and even our talents is flame damage as well, so that's kind of a couple ways that we can proc it. Now over into the chest with heavy armor, we have max stam enchantment, and that's how it's kind of going to be. Is max stam enchantment is going to be on the head, chest, and legs, with magicka enchantment on the feet, hands, waist, and shoulders, since they are kind of the smaller pieces. But our next set that we are running with is part of the Drake's Rush. This will add, I guess I have sturdy trait on this. We probably want reinforced to increase our resistance as well. Legs, we could go reinforce if you want to, because those are your bigger pieces, so I'd recommend reinforce on the chest and legs if you want more resistance. Otherwise, sturdy works great for reducing cost of blocking. The Drake's Rush set, so this gives us max health 1100, We also get 3 and 4 gives us 1000 max stam, really good for blocking longer. And for 5-piece bonuses, when we bash an enemy, us and up to 3 group members within 15 meters of us gain major heroism for 12 seconds, granting us 3 ultimate every second and a half, and this effect can occur once every 18 seconds. So like I said earlier, we have a lot of things building ulti, and now we have this building even more ulti, so this is definitely going to help us sustain. And that's the thing too, it's not just for us, this builds ulti for our group members, so this will also increase their DPS because they can drop ultis when we drop our Warhorn as well. Our shoulder piece is a light armor trait with magicka enchantment, sturdy trait, and Chris Behemoth monster set. Waist, hands, and feet, max magicka enchantment, sturdy trait, Drake's Rush, and legs is stam with sturdy trait with Drake's Rush set. On the jewelry, we are running all Yolocrins with magicka and recovery enchantment on that, just to make sure we have enough recovery for the build. With max health, again, the more health we have, the better some of our skills will do as well. Now over into the champion point system. Over into the crafter, there's nothing really here that kind of helps us really for PVE, except for maybe, let's say, Rationer. This adds 30 minutes all the way leveled up to the duration of any food or drink that we have, which is really nice. So we almost get about like 3 hours worth of the duration of our food and drink because we have Concierge or Gourmet. Liquid efficiency, this gives us a 10% chance to not consume a poison or a potion, so it allows us to keep our potions so we don't have to go make more potions. I got Stead Blastings, which just increases our out of combat movement speed by 20%, which is really nice. And then we have Treasure Hunter, which increases the quality of items found in treasure chests, that way we get better items. And I would probably say make sure to get Steadfast Enchantment for a 50% chance not to consume a charge when we activate our weapon. Good other things to have is Guild Fingers and Fortune Favor. Guild Finger gives us more gold gain. Fortune Favors gives us the amount, increase the amount of gold we can find in treasure chests, safe boxes, and stuff like that. Now over into the blue tree, this is kind of where your damage and mitigation tree is. We got 20 points in Tireless Discipline for more stam, 20 into Eldritch for more max stam. And here we got Quick Recovery. We have Elemental Aegis, reduced damage taken from Magicka Flame, Frost, and Shock damage by 2%. 2% for physical poison, disease, and bleed damage and hardy. And 10% damage reduction from preparation from non-player attacks. So, since we are PvE, we're not going to get hit by players, so this is non-player attacks. And we have Slotted Ironclad, which reduces our damage taken by direct damage by 10%. And then our other Slottables that we have is Duelist Rebuff for 10% reduction to single target attacks, 10% reduction to damage over times with Enduring Resolve, Unassailable with a 10% damage reduction from area of effects. And then over into Extended Might, we have Piercing for 70 offensive penetration. We have Flawless Ritual. We probably actually want to put actually like Battle Mastery and Mighty. We actually probably want to actually max out our War Mage over here. This would actually gives us 100 spell weapon and spell damage for our magical attacks for affecting Magicka Flame, Frost, and Shock damage. So that would be like 200. And then Flawless Ritual, this will just increase the chance to apply magical status effects, so our Ice Staff, to get that minor brittle by 60% if we really want to. And then Battle Mastery, this is a 60% increase to apply martial status effects. And Mighty gives us 100 weapon and spell damage to our physical poison, disease, and bleed damage. Now over into the red tree. For Slottables, we have Boundless Vitality, giving us 1,400 max health, nice thing to have. Fortified for 1,700 armor, get our resistance up. I end up putting in Expert Evasion, which allows us to roll dodge. It's free, and if we wait another 30 seconds, it's free again, but if we don't wait 30 seconds, then it will cost stamp to roll dodge, but it's kind of nice to keep not use stamp when we roll dodge to get out of the way for something, since I roll a lot. And then the last one we have is then into Walking Fortress tier with Bracing Anchor. This, while in combat, increase the amount of damage we can block by 20%, but we also reduce our movement speed by 16% in total. A very good thing to make sure to get right off the bat too is Fortification, because this will increase the amount of damage you can block by 4%. I mean, there's things like Tireless Guardian, reduce cost of block by 40. We have Hasty, which just increase our movement speed by 4%. Want to make sure to get Heroes Vigor, because this again will give us 560 max health, so a little more health here. Tumbling, reduce the cost of roll dodge, so we don't use so much stamina when we're trying to get out of the way for things or out of danger zone. Defiance, reduce the cost of break free, so when we get CC'd we don't use so much stam either as well. And then over in here we just got Mystic Tenacity, reducing the duration of elemental status effects by 25% in total. So there you have it for my Dragonknight tank for the Waking Flame DLC. Thank you all so much for watching. If you really liked the video, consider maybe hitting that subscribe button. If you really want to keep up to date with any of my other stuff I put on my channel, hit that notification bell so that way you guys can stay up to date with that. You can then go over to Twitch and follow me over there. Trying to build my community a little bit over there as well. If you do have questions about the build, you can leave it in the comment section down below, or you can message me over at Twitter. Thank you all so much for watching, and I hope to see you in the next one.